What's up? What's up? What's up? We are back again with the God Squad, Dillon and December. What's going on? How was Thanksgiving?
It was super low key. I went for a walk with my camera and took some pictures of waterfowl, and then I made myself a steak and mashed potatoes. So that was my last week Thursday.
Well,
it,
actually,
it,
that sounds pretty good.
I mean, all things considered, it was a pretty good Thursday. I took the advantage of the fact that it's a federal holiday, and I just didn't do squat other than what I wanted to do. Watched a little football, took some pictures, got some nature time. Pretty good
Good,
day.
good. I hung out with the family. We had all the family over. We had it at a clubhouse this year. I didn't want to all that cleaning and trying to play Tetris with the refrigerator on it. Felt like dealing with all of that. And but it was really good. Everybody had a good time. We ate good. We were grateful. Thank you for your kind message that I got on Thanksgiving. You said I'm thankful for you, and I am and was and is and always will be thankful for you. And another thing I'll be thankful for is our listeners and viewers, all those who try to get a little pinch of faith, politics, and sanity with me and Dillon every week. So thank you. What's up,
Yeah,
Elaine?
thank y'all
Thank you
very
for
much.
tuning in. We're grateful for you. We're closing the year out almost. We got what, one or two more shows, and then that's the wrap for 2025.
Yeah, that's right. And next week we have a repeat guest on the show. Rabbi Seth Goldstein is going to be joining us to talk about the Jewish holiday tradition of Hanukkah. So we're delighted that Rabbi Seth is going to be back on next week. And if you're not following him, go check out his stuff on Instagram. It's really really fantastic. But yeah, we're super grateful for our listeners. I looked today. We have gotten up to 43,000 something downloads.
Wow.
Uh, and right at the turn of when the podcast turned a year old in the summertime, we were at 30,000. So um,
That's not bad.
43 43,054. It's live update. So that's not bad. That's not bad.
Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. We are surviving and hopefully helping other people get through this Twilight upside down world. This
Yeah.
what do you call Alice in Wonderland situation that we are now in under the rule of one what that woman called on the show last night with John Syphilisaurus Rex.
That's right.
We
That's
had a
right.
caller on John Fugle's show that called Donald Trump Syphilisaurus Rex. I ain't never ever, when I tell you I ain't never ever heard, I said, oh my God, I swear to God, I gotta put that in my toolbox to
That's right.
use, not just for Trump. I'm gonna bust that out on somebody at some point. I'm gonna call somebody a Syphilisaurus Rex.
Yeah, that was Bridget from Pennsylvania, and she actually sent me or tagged us both in a Blue Sky post today, saying thanks for taking the call and that she appreciated talking to us last night. So
I
if
appreciate
you're
Bridget
listening,
making
Bridget,
the call. She made my day with that. I ain't never heard that
I
answer.
nearly fell out of my chair. I'm not kidding. I nearly fell out of my chair. Uh, yeah, yeah, I nearly fell out of my chair when she said Syphilosaurus Rex. But that
Oh,
that that fool and his whole cabinet clown show of illegality and horrificness. Yeah, just another week in Donald Trump's America. Just another crazy week in Donald Trump's America, where a sitting president called a sitting governor the
darn.
R word, which is a slur, and which in very typical, highly predictable fashion, the fascist knuckleheads came out of the woodwork with, oh, finally we can say it again. We talked about Jack Posobiec on tell me everything one night. I did a deep dive into that Nazi, and he was one of the cheerleaders for being able to use the R word slur. And folks, I used to work with uh, people with developmental disabilities and autism as a program specialist to help them to be able to do things in public and socialize and to enhance the quality of their lives. And I will not put up with that kind of crap. Uh, and then he called Elon Omar and all Somalis in
Garbage.
Minnesota garbage.
All of them.
Just
And you know what's crazy to me is a lot of them voted for Donald Trump.
I
You know that? They
I
got
I,
they got
I
the
just
same condition that them Cubans have. They
uh-huh.
got the same condition that some they I don't know what their perceived, imagined, or delusional proximity to whiteness is in their mind, but they got that same issue.
Well,
And also the Arab Americans for Trump. There's I don't know what they're perceived, and it is that proximity. Yes, lemon lime lukey. I think that I'm saying that right. Welcome to the show. It is that. There is a white supremacy is a hell of a drug.
that's right.
Even if you
It
ain't
is.
white, there's a whole lot of folks walking around with a contact high.
Yeah, exactly that right there. I mean,
There's a whole lot of folks walking around with a contact high, and they about to come way down, way fast because
right.
they about to be on a plane back to wherever quicker than they could say Trump.
Yeah. Just
And
I
I
mean it's
ain't got no sympathy for them. Whatever comes, whatever happened to y'all, that's what you voted for. I
well,
hope you have the day you voted for.
right. Well,
Because we all gotta have the day you voted for too.
in Minnesota, there is a state senator who is Somali that he was voted in to the Minnesota State Senate by the people of Minnesota. His name is Omar Fatah. And so I guess Trump was probably calling him garbage too, even though he's also
He didn't discern which ones he was and wasn't. He just said they are garbage. And did he say they stink or something? It's like just listening to just your everyday crackpot grandpa
yeah,
racist
you're
talk,
racist grandpa.
just rambling. Man, sometimes drunk. Because
Right.
the stuff he be saying and then falling asleep. Did you see him at the cabinet meeting though?
Oh my God.
Can we retire the phrase Sleepy Joe? Can we retire Sleepy Joe Biden? Because they don't have one piece of footage of Biden doing what Trump is doing in these cabinet leaning
Right.
forward, leaning back, bobbing and weaving. They don't have one piece, not one piece of footage of Biden doing that.
And the funniest thing about that, it was that whole praise the dear leader thing that keeps happening in these cabinet meetings. It's nauseating to listen to. What
I can't watch them.
I
They
can't.
just go down the line one by one and see if they can outlick each other.
Right. And Christy Nome, oh my God. Not only is she a fascist, but she's dumber than a box of hammers. She said, "Thank you, President Trump, for getting us through hurricane season without any hurricanes."
Oh, he must be God.
What the?
Who?
Do you know how climate and weather work? The President of the United States, I don't give a shit who he is, has no bearing on whether or not a hurricane hits the United States. These people are clowns. And
And
clowns.
somebody believes what she's saying because apparently
Oh,
there's
oh,
somebody with some remote controls that's sending the hurricanes when when it's controlling where they go and who they hit and what time and everything.
with the Jewish space lasers.
All that. It's all
The people that'll
state.
the people that believe that are the same people that were putting tampons on their ears after Trump pretend got shot.
Isn't on that note, do you am I the only one that finds it strange that we don't hear anything about any of those trials?
Right?
It's not even news at all.
Right.
They just got arrested and that it went away. I
Yeah.
ain't heard no more about none of them. Have you?
I
And what's this thing about the Charlie Kirk thing? There's some kind of halfway scandal that's I don't know. We probably don't got time to get into it. But I
no,
saw a little bit of something on the internet this week that had something to do with Charlie Kirk. And I was like, may that man rest in peace wherever he's at. But they're saying that he apparently was into the trans community as far as his entertainment goes. But that shouldn't surprise anybody though.
oh, Charlie Kirk was?
That's what they're saying. He was into
I don't know. I
something
don't put anything
and
past
this and that. I don't even know, but I don't put nothing past none of them. The louder you
this.
are about that stuff, that's usually the deeper in that foolishness you need deep in it. Some of them is neck deep in it. The louder they are, the more into it they are.
Well, I don't put anything past this administration because we see what they're doing at a foreign policy level.
Mm.
We see them murdering people without due process in complete violation of the Geneva Convention and the DoD's manual on war and all of those kinds of things. And just today, they showed the video of the double tap strike, as they're calling it.
Yeah.
And Representative Himes, I can't remember what state he's from, but he's a Democrat and he's on that committee. He said it was the most disturbing thing that he's seen in his time in public service.
Mm.
And that what he saw in that video was absolutely a violation of the Department of Defense's manual on war, like how to conduct warfare. But the thing is, they're not even we're not at war. Congress has not declared war. So what they're doing is just extrajudicial killings.
They're just
They're
killing
just
people.
killing people.
Because if they were interested in doing what, keeping drugs or whatever, why aren't you arresting them? And the ones that they got alive, they let go.
Right. And
They
we know
didn't prosecute them. So is it really about that? I think they're just trying to pick a war with Venezuela so Trump could figure out how to stay in office.
right. And we know that it's not about the drugs because right after Trump got elected, he pardoned that Silk Road guy who sold what was it, $225 million worth of illegal drugs.
When
And
he
then
just pardoned
the former president of Honduras, who whose name escapes me, but was responsible for tons and tons of cocaine coming in to the United States. And I wonder if he did that at the behest of Don Jr. because that dude looks like he's coked out of his mind most of the time.
Juan Orlando Hernandez.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Who had he was convicted of all kind of stuff, not just drug trafficking. I think he has a murder charge too.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. And, for those that don't know, the United States of America has a long and very disgusting history of propping up people like that guy, Hernandez, in Central America to further the interest of capitalists in the United States, to investors, etc. The first CIA coup was orchestrated to overturn the two successive elections in Guatemala, the second of which they elected Jacobo Arbenz. And he had the temerity to tell the United Fruit Company that they had to pay the taxes at the level that the United Fruit Company valued the land, which was super low already. But UFCO said, we don't want to do that. And then Henry Cabot Lodge, a guy in the State Department, is like, we got to protect American capital. The next thing you know, Castillo Armas has been propped up by the CIA. And then subsequently, 2 million Guatemalans were disappeared or killed because of the U.S. intervention. And we've done that kind of thing through what used to be called School of the Americas. Now they've changed the name to something Western Hemisphere, long name, so that people can't just say shut down the School of the Americas, which had a history with all these kind of dictators. Manuel Noriega, as another example, he sold all kind of drugs, and he was our guy in Panama until he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I got
so
a correction. He did not have a murder charge. Not that they could prove, anyways. He was charged with facilitating the movement of over 400 tons of U.S. bound cocaine between 2004 and 2022, accepting millions of dollars in bribes from Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the Sinaloa cartel, and all of. He was charged with conspiring to use machine guns to further that cocaine importation, and he also used the Honduran police and the military to guard shipments and tip off traffickers when against the law enforcement and U.S. So I don't know what Trump's motive is behind this guy getting pardoned. My assumption is that he's doing somebody a favor.
probably so. And for those keeping score at home, that's 800,000 pounds plus of cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't tell me, because I'm a reasonable person with critical thinking skills, that drug boats are being blown up because Venezuela's sending cocaine to the
Yeah,
United States while
but he proven
simultaneously pardoning a guy who's responsible for damn near 1,000,000 pounds of the shit.
400 tons. Mm-hmm. But you care so much about drugs
800,000
coming
pounds.
into the United States. So you say. And that's
Yeah.
also the reason why you blowing up boats. So you say.
And it's
Now
over
about that
60
double
people now
tap,
that's been murdered.
they say that you could see the people. I haven't seen the video. I don't think the video is public, right?
No, it's not public, but
But they're
it was
saying,
described as that they were clearly in distress in the water, had no means of life support, and they shot them dead,
mm,
knowing that that's what it was. And then today, or I think it was today, I saw the video about it today. The admiral in charge of the Southern Command, whatever that particular substructure of the Navy is,
mm,
resigned 1 year into a 3-year term because Hegseth uh, basically asked him to, because that admiral kept pushing back against all this illegal stuff.
so
And now
basically he
Hegseth's
was
trying to pass the buck.
he was pretty fired.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
37-year veteran,
Mm,
been in the military 37 years, and you've got a womanizing, abusive, alcoholic, Christo-fascist knucklehead who has no more credentials to be in charge of the Department of Defense, running around, as somebody said, cosplaying army.
mhm.
And then you're making the United States and its allies unsafe because you don't like the Geneva Convention and the laws and the rules of warfare. Remember back a few months ago when Hegseth when Trump made everybody, all the top brass, come to DC and sit in that big room, and then Hegseth paraded around like he was on a Fox News stage,
And they were
and
silent.
they were silent. But he said, "We're not going to care about these stupid rules anymore." He was saying the quiet part out loud. We are going to commit war crimes, and we don't care who says anything about it. It's
And
like they're
speaking of
watching it.
that, then they want to say they don't understand or they're misrepresenting this video that the
Right,
military veterans that are in the government put out about you don't have to obey illegal orders or do not obey illegal orders. And
right,
what's so funny to me, they be on that bullshit because there's all this outrage. Oh, you told them to, uh, uh, basically go against the president. You're telling them this and that. And then the same, or it was either later the same week or this following week. Now all this about double tapping them people in the water, which was illegal. And
right,
so it makes me to wonder that they knew that that was there and they put the video out because of that incident. And also for anyone going forward, don't do this, because here's the thing. Trump might have immunity. You don't.
right.
You're going to be held to the standards in the regulations of the military. You do not get to fall up under this you could do whatever the hell you want to do because you packed the Supreme Court shit that Trump is doing.
Right. Yeah.
You're going to be in front of somebody that's going to send you to prison under
Let's
the
hope.
law.
Let's hope. I watched a report with Nicole Wallace, isn't that her name, on MSNBC or whatever the heck it's called now? And she was talking to a former Rear Admiral from the Coast Guard who was one of the top judge advocate generals for the military. And he said, what's been described is absolutely illegal. End of discussion. And then they read from the DoD handbook for the laws of warfare. And it says very specifically, you cannot shoot sailors in a shipwreck. It's right there. And it says in that same manual that if you are a subordinate and you know that the law, that the rule or the order is illegal, you are not supposed to follow it. This is the time right now on December fucking 4th, 2025, that the military brass needs to stand up for what they stood and swore, just like I did in 1990 at the MEPS station in Dallas, to uphold and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And the calls are coming from inside the fucking White House.
The calls are coming from inside the house. And that they know that they fucked up, because they won't just say that Hegseth gave the order. They keep throwing this admiral under the bus.
Right.
And we stand behind him. Really, you stand behind him so hard, you won't say that you gave him that order.
Right. and again, he was walking back and forth on that stage
so hard, but you're throwing him up under the bus at the same time. I don't need nobody standing behind me that's gonna push me up under the bus.
Right. And he already gave the game away. He said, we're not going to follow these rules anymore because we're tough and we're manly and we're the most lethality and all this stuff. That man's got, when he's done and sheds his mortal coil, I think Jesus is going to have a long talk with his dumb ass, because he runs around talking about how he's redeemed. I'm talking about Pete Hegseth. And then he does all this stuff that, if you put him and Jesus side by side, they don't look nothing alike.
Not only that, these people that are trying to justify that. Tom Cotton, this fool, says that the U.S. strikes, listen at the words they use, and listen at the rhetoric and the words and the action they use, period, in relation to this administration and Trump. The strikes on the drug boat were righteous. Righteous?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
They
have the Coast Guard for a reason.
Right.
No, sorry, go ahead. What else did
you're fine. He was saying that he was pleased with the footage he had seen that showed 2 survivors of the strike being killed in a follow-up strike. That's illegal. But he said there were righteous strikes. What's righteous about blowing a boat up out the water with the damn remote control?
Right.
And then seeing, you could have sent the Coast Guard to arrest them if you thought they were coming to the United States. You don't know where they're going.
Right.
But if you thought they were coming to the United States, you could have went and had them arrested. This is how you know that there is nothing lawful about anything that they're doing, because if they're going to do due process, they're going to arrest them, not kill them in the water. If they're going to have a war, that war has to be declared by Congress. They're not doing any of that. They ain't on either side of it. They just doing whatever the hell they wake up doing on any given day. Somebody's going to have to answer for that. And I'm certain that the United States as a country, its citizens, is going to be paying billions upon billions upon billions of reparations, damages, restitution to so many people following the Trump administration. The families of these Venezuelans, the individuals and the families of the individuals who were sent down there to that prison in where was that? Yeah,
El Salvador. Yeah.
in El Salvador, the
Which Christy
family.
Nome admitted that she decided to ignore the judge's order and sent the planes anyway, knowing the judge's order. And she said, "No, we're going to do it anyway."
Hmm.
So that the chickens are going to come home to roost one of these
It's
days.
coming. It's gonna
One of these
come.
days,
There's
because
gonna be so many class actions. This v. United States. This v. United States Department of Justice. This v. United States ICE. Class actions upon class actions, and it's just gonna get settled by Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer
right,
dollars.
yeah,
But
because
anyhow,
we're doing this in our name, and
we're gonna be the ones paying for that.
yeah,
I promise you, there's gonna be a fund one day. There's gonna be a formal presidential apology and a fund set aside for all the shit that Trump has done, including when Doge got rid of US aid and all the children and the girls and all the things tied, the death that is tied and going to have be able to draw a beeline back to when they eliminated US aid around the world.
yeah,
I
tens of
promise
thousands of people have already died because of those cuts.
you, it's gonna happen. There's gonna be a formal apology for this shit that we're living through right now, and millions, billions of lawsuits and damages paid out
Yeah.
at our expense. But anyhow, I know you got some
Well,
kind of
but before we
stuff.
get to the fundamentalist buckwittery, I want to just real quick drop some woke history on y'all, because today is a somber day of remembrance. Because on this date in 1969, Black Panther leaders Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were murdered by
Mhm.
Chicago police officers at the behest of Edgar Hoover's FBI. And I was fortunate enough to learn about Fred Hampton and Mark Clark in a class that I took with Dr. John McLarnon at Millersville University as part of my history degree. It was a upper level history class about the United States from 1954 to 1974, and the Black Panther movement was a part of that class. And one of the things that Hampton and Clark were doing was they were providing breakfast for children in the Chicagoland area. They were helping set up medical clinics um,
Mhm.
for people who didn't have medical care. And Hampton was an avowed socialist, and he said this: "We think you fight fire with water. We're not going to fight racism with racism. We're going to fight racism with solidarity." And this is probably what got him killed,
Mhm.
just like what got Dr. King killed. Even though you think you ought to fight capitalism with black capitalism, we're going to fight capitalism with socialism. And
Mhm.
for those who don't know, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a democratic socialist. And if you've never taken the time to listen to the speech Beyond Vietnam, he makes it very clear where he stood on that particular issue. So today is Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were murdered by the Chicago Police Department, who then, of course, tried to cover it up, tried to say that they were shot at first, when it turned out that there were almost 100 bullets that they could tell by forensic analysis that came from the Chicago PD, and they shot people who were already wounded, and murdered Hampton at the age of 21 and Mark Clark, who was just about the same age. Um,
Mm.
so that happened today in 1969. But yes,
We
this
are never
week,
that far removed. People think we're so far away from those days.
right?
My mother is living.
Yeah,
We got people who lived those through that here. We got people who were at the end, on the tail end of Jim Crow, still walking around here.
Ruby Bridges is younger than the current predator in the White House.
There,
Um,
there you go.
and this week, the fundamentalist fuckwittery is brought to you by Oklahoma University student Samantha Fulnecki. Now, Why am I bringing her up? Because she had an assignment that was assigned by in a psych class. She's apparently a psych major, and the assignment was to respond to an article about gender and how gender expression can lead to bullying and that kind of thing. And Samantha Fulnecki, whose mother is Super MAGA, a lawyer from Springfield, Missouri. Her mother represented multiple insurrectionists in the from January 6th, and has spoken about free speech, because they're a lot about free speech. These Christians, and she turned in an essay that was about 650 words, and I read it all, so y'all don't have to respond to this, to the scholarly article that was assigned by the instructors of the class, one of whom is transgender. Now, this all smells like a great big giant sewer rat to me, because what happened next was she got a 0 on the assignment. And the professor said this: I'm not deducting points because you have certain beliefs. I am instead deducting points for your posting a reaction paper that does not answer the questions for this assignment, contradicts itself, heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence in a scientific class, and at times is offensive. While you're entitled to your own personal beliefs, there's an appropriate time or place to implement them in your reflections. I encourage all students to question or challenge the course material with other empirical findings or testable hypotheses, but you're using your own personal beliefs to argue against the findings of not only this article, but the findings of countless articles across psychology, biology, sociology, etc., is not best practice. You argue that anyway. So I read the essay in question, and Desimber and I are both writers, and it is not only poorly written, but it is contradictory. It does not cite anything. She just spouts her opinions, which are tied to gender essentialism, which is super ironic because she is a college student. And in the world of the gender essentialist, in the world of people like Charlie Kirk,
she should be at home barefoot and pregnant.
She should be at home barefoot and pregnant and not going to college. But it's Turning Point USA's Oklahoma chapter that posted the essay online and the professor's response. Now, I'm going to read just a little bit from this essay. It says the article discussed peers using teasing as a way to enforce gender norms. I don't necessarily see this as a problem. So she's right there saying, I think it's okay to bully people because of Jesus, right? And then later in the essay, she says, society is pushing the lie that there are multiple genders and everybody should be whatever they want to is demonic and severely harms American youth. I do not want kids to be teased or bullied in school. Well, in the first page of your 650-word essay, you said you were okay with kids being bullied in school. So which is it? And the thing that stinks is she immediately got the grade. And who did she call? Former Oklahoma State Superintendent and representative of fundamentalist fuckwittery here on the God Squad pod, Ryan Walters, who is no longer the state superintendent, but he is a loudmouth that goes on Fox News a lot. She called Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, who is racist as hell, and a Christo-fascist Christian nationalist kind of guy, and the president of OU to complain. Now,
a lot of calling around for one essay. I guess she was entitled.
And then she went on Fox News and had this to say, and I'm going to play it for you.
Offended by the truth of the gospel and the truth that I wrote about in my assignment, and it saddens me to see that that offends them and upsets them. the way it did. Jesus is always worth standing up for. And I just encourage those people that are dealing with something similar to push back against that kind of behavior. I would rather have my integrity and give my true opinion and get a 0 on an assignment than have to lie about what I really believe.
Okay. I would rather have my integrity and get a 0. No, you wouldn't.
No, because you wouldn't.
Because as soon as you got the 0, you lost your damn mind. Now she's saying that she's really looking into becoming more vocal about religious freedom of speech. Now, folks, I don't know if our listeners have been to college. A lot of y'all probably have. I have. And that's not how science works. It's not how academia works. You are not there to spout your gender essentialist nonsense based on an Iron Age collection of text that is never meant to be a science book. As my professor of biblical interpretation, one of them, Dr. Julia O'Brien, whose expertise is the Hebrew Bible / Old Testament, she said, if you're reading Genesis literally, you're doing it wrong. And you're missing the point completely. And when I was at Millersville and I was taking those history classes like the one I just mentioned with Dr. McLarnon, there was a young woman in the class. I was a mid-30s student by then. I was a non-traditional student. And she did not like my political opinions because guess what? Dillon was loud in those classes. Shocking, right? And one day she confronted me about it, and she was holding her laptop and she had a Santorum campaign sticker on it. Rick Santorum, who used to be a senator from Pennsylvania. He's a very hard right Catholic Christo-fascist who said things like, we absolutely want to know what's going on in your bedroom and we have that right, and all that kind of thing. And that women should not be in college. They should be at home barefoot and pregnant. And I just looked at her and pointed at her laptop and I said, he doesn't think you should be here. And it just went right over her head. And this young woman is now putting herself out there to be this religious free speech champion. And she went on there and talked about how she talked about the gospel. No, you didn't. You didn't talk about the gospel. You talked about your interpretation of Genesis.
Not only that, that wasn't your assignment.
It was not the assignment.
That was not the assignment. Talk about Jesus however much you want to talk about Jesus. Do the assignment.
But she didn't. And so what she did was write a 650-word essay that was poorly written, contradictory, and didn't use any empirical evidence.
So she wrote a formal rant, is what she did.
Yeah. And then why are you in science classes? Why are you a pre-med psych major if you're going to have this kind of response
to science?
To science. Does she know that Genesis says that the earth is a flat disk with a dome-shaped lid? Probably not, even though she tried to use some Hebrew words in her essay to justify her views on gender and gender stereotypes and talking about how women want to do womanly things because that's how God made them. Well, I know plenty of women who don't want to do womanly things. Whatever womanly things are.
Kids. They don't want to be married nor have kids. That's
right.
Womanly things.
And if we're going to go by the Bible, you might want to take off them fake eyelashes you're wearing and all that makeup, because there's that part of the Bible that talks about women should dress modestly, and it's not about wearing revealing clothing. It's about dolling yourself up and shit and putting on, but they're very hypocritical and very selective in what they're doing. And this smells, like I said, like a sewer rat, because her mom is a podcast host and does things on, the radio and stuff in Missouri.
They're blowing it up so they can get.
This has grifter with a capital G all over it. So for all of those reasons, Samantha Fulnecki is this week's representative of fundamentalist fuckwittery. And shoot, I don't have the book. Last night I read a quote from a theologian from Princeton Theological Seminary. And basically he said, unquestioned faith turns into, fanaticism and that sort of thing. That's a very loose paraphrase. And so my question for you, Samantha Fulnecki, what if you're wrong? What if the sociologist, the scientist, and the psychologist are right, and the Bible's not a science book, and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you're not loving your neighbor because you're basing your assumptions on false information? So that's my question for you, Samantha. And we'll probably hear more about her because we know that the right-wing grift machine never stops.
And they love a scandal involving the trans community. Oh, they just
Oh
love
my
that.
goodness. And that's the other thing.
That trans teacher gave her a 0 because she's trans, not because the girl couldn't write an essay,
Right. And again, the first thing that she said, this is not because of your beliefs. And then the other professor said, I'm the other instructor for this course, and I've taken time to read your paper. I concur with Mel on the grade received. This paper should not be considered a completion of the assignment. She called a whole group of people demonic. That's
and
not
what is scientific
academic.
about that?
Exactly.
That's not a scientific conclusion.
Right. It's not a scientific conclusion. So she got the grade she deserved. I read it. I would have given her the same exact grade. It was theologically spurious and it was scientifically idiotic. So that's this week's representative of fundamentalist fuckwittery. And she's a young kid. And when I was that young, I said some real dumb shit. I just hope that one day that she looks back at this and just cringes all over because she's repented and she has turned over a new leaf. Yeah.
And there's the thing that gets me about people like her and those who give that thought process and that frame of mind a platform. Even the scriptures say, let's take the Bible, let's go from the Bible. Choose this day whom you will serve. Those of you who know your word, that's in the word. Specifically, that's in Joshua 24. Choose this day whom you will serve.
Right.
All over the Bible from the front to the back, people are given the opportunity to choose whom they will serve. My issue with these fundamentalist Christians and these so-called conservative Christians is, why are you so intent upon taking away people's choice?
Mm-hmm.
But you claim to serve a God who gave you a choice. Now, in his divine authority that you claim God has, all powerful, omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, whatever, all the things, the A and the Z, the Alpha and the Omega, and all the power that God has, he has given you a choice. He is not making anybody do anything. And there's nothing in the scripture that anyone could point to that shows Jesus made anybody do anything, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. Why are fundamentalists, Christians, conservative Christians, evangelicals, or whoever the hell else, why are you so concerned about using an earthly system to enforce a kingdom life that even the God of that kingdom don't force you to adhere to?
Right.
Who the hell are you, and who told you God needed your help? Get the fuck out of God's seat and mind your business.
Right. Yeah. Get out of God's seat and go take a seat somewhere else.
Mind your motherfucking business. If you don't like gay people, gay relationships, gay marriage, don't get gay married.
Real simple.
You ain't got to. Do your thing. If you don't want to have an abortion, don't get an abortion. If you don't want to use a certain bathroom, don't use it. If you don't want to eat a certain food, don't eat it. If you don't want to go to the library and take your kids to go see a drag queen reading a book, don't take your motherfucking kids to the library to see a drag queen reading. What is so hard for these people that they can't figure out how to mind their fucking business? Why are you minding business where God don't mind?
Mm-hmm.
Because the scriptures that I read said, choose this day whom you will serve. And the Jesus that I seen in the scripture don't force anything on anybody. But here you are claiming to be a follower of Christ, trying to use an earthly system to enforce kingdom principles from a God that don't force you to do a goddamn thing. So what are you really trying to do? And what is your actual agenda? And who in the fuck do you think you are? That's the question I have for them.
Right.
That you're so important. And what you believe is so important that you got to project it onto the whole entire world instead of just living it out loud yourself.
And if they would do that, we wouldn't have a show because we wouldn't have near as much to push back against if they would just do their thing.
Live your best life.
Nobody's stopping you from believing that. The secular police are not coming to knock on your door and say, look, you have to accept science. You have to accept that gender, sex is never binary nor fixed. You have to. No, you can believe what you want. Ken Ham is still running around building ark encounters and creation museums and telling people that the science says that the earth is 10,000 years. You can say that.
You can say that the rapture is coming in 1914, 1944, 1918, last year, 2 weeks ago.
We already missed like 3 this year.
He can get left every time, but you can say that.
Yeah, nobody's stopping these folks, and that's the ridiculous thing. There are Christians in America being persecuted by ICE.
Yes,
by Donald Trump. There are Christians in America being persecuted who are immigrants being persecuted by ICE, and Christians who are standing up against ICE being persecuted. But Samantha Fulnecki is not being persecuted. Charlie Kirk was not being persecuted. These people are not, they've got a persecution complex. You want to see what anti-Christian persecution looks like, you got to go somewhere else for the most part. Yeah, nobody's telling you can't believe this foolishness. You're allowed to believe it.
Preach till you lose your voice, and ain't nobody gonna do nothing but look at you like you're crazy. Ain't no persecution going on in this country of Christians.
I mean, there's manic street preachers down the street from me every week, standing on boxes with megaphones during market days. We got one of the oldest farmers markets in the country in this city, and we get manic street preachers down there screaming this, that, and the other thing of theological nonsense, thinking that that's what Jesus wants them to do. And I don't think that's what Jesus really wants them to do, but nobody's stopping them. They keep getting permits to do it. So, I don't want to hear this nonsense about freedom of speech and freedom of religion, but I do want to hear about this week's this motherfucker. So what you got?
No, well, you sent me one that we'll briefly talk about. I ain't gonna give him a lot of space, but you sent me one that we'll briefly talk about. Then I'm gonna cover some good news, and then you're gonna give us the word on the street. But this clown that you sent to me said that he does not believe that Black people are Americans because they were slaves. This motherfucker said that amendments were made and there were adjustments that gave you being Black people, citizenship and the right to vote, but it didn't make you an American. It just gave you American citizenship. It gave you legal right. Interesting. So your ass immigrated over here and you get to be an American. But if you stole my ass and brought me over here, I don't get to be an American, even if I was born here.
Right.
The mindset of white nationalists, racists in general, but specifically white nationalists, is mind-blowing to me. The psychology behind who they believe they don't even believe Native Americans get to be called Americans.
Right.
The mindset behind who, and I was watching one of these debates where they have the one person that's debating the whole room. And this heifer that was on, I can't remember which one was she debating, Mehdi. Anyways, this heifer was on there talking on this white nationalist stuff, and she was, I don't like the term anchor baby, but she was technically that. She was first generation from somewhere. It was I don't know if it was Poland or wherever she was from. It wasn't Russia, but it was in that area. And it's the mindset of white supremacy that is mind-boggling, because they will say that she get to be an American, and she in her own mind is an American, but I'm not. Now, mind you, hundreds of years worth of my relatives and ancestors were born here and built this country up. But I'm not an American. But he would consider that woman an American, I guess, just by the virtue of her white skin.
Right.
The psychology behind white nationalism is, at the end of the day, is delusion. But it is interesting to see these people twist themselves into knots to try to figure out how they can make themselves superior to the next thing that God created. And to me, this is my personal opinion, you cannot be a white nationalist or a Christian nationalist and also genuinely and authentically believe in God.
That works for me.
I don't even think you know God, because in your mind, God must be some type of white American conservative Christian, when God is not even a human being. But in your mind, that must be what you see when you think about God. If you can't see me as your sister, brother in Christ, whatever the case is, because the scriptures that I read said, how can you say you love God, but you hate your brother?
Right.
You can't love me. You don't even know me. And so that was to this gentleman who probably calls himself a Christian. What is his name? Elijah Schaefer, who I'm sure believes he's a Christian. There was some other fundamentalist fuckwit Christian pastor that was talking about Black folks in the same manner. He didn't come out and say we were 3/8 of a human like this guy did, but he was on that same trip. And I'm thinking, you don't even...
that's probably Joel Webon or that guy that we had on not too long ago, Joshua Hames.
Yeah, you don't even know God, and God don't know you either. But anyway, y'all catch that where you depart from me. What you gonna get? You evil doer. Depart from me. I don't even know you. I don't know you like that.
That's right.
I don't know
right.
you like that, and you never knew me. And then there's some good news in the world today. I want to cover that, and then I really am looking forward to whatever the word on the street is from yours truly, Dillon Desimber Cruz. The grand jury rejected a new indictment against Letitia James today. For those of you that know, her case was tossed recently because the person who brought the case shouldn't even have been in the position to bring the case. I think if they hadn't got tossed on that, I think it would have got tossed anyway for malicious prosecution. Because how is it that motherfucker that's over there in the housing division or wherever the hell he's at, the only ones that you could find some kind of mortgage fraud on is Democrats? You mean to tell me ain't nary a Republican up there in Washington got a house somewhere that they done said is they main house when they got another house in the city where they come from? Ain't nobody, no Republicans, not one. That fool need to be investigated. And I think Swalwell, is that how you say his name? I think he did file a suit or is filing a suit against that guy in that department for basically utilizing that division to bring malicious and fraudulent cases against people. These mortgage fraud prosecutions that are just bullshit, basically. So her and James Comey cases were thrown out. I believe that was last week. And a grand jury would not indict New York Attorney General Letitia James again. And I think that James Comey, unless they cook up something new for him, I think he's past the statute of limitations to be indicted for anything. But it ain't beyond them to create something. You know what I'm saying? So that was some news. There was some other news. I think there was some court news in a case that that the courts, the federal grants were reinstated for libraries. Now, whoever knows if that don't go all the way up to the Supreme Court and they give him what he wants, which is, I believe, what happened in Texas with the Texas litigation, that they said he could use those maps.
Yeah, that just happened.
It was a conservative judge, and I think a Trump judge that said these maps. It was either a Trump or, anyways, it was a Republican judge that was like, this map is rigged. This is racial, whatever the case. But I guess if you pack the Supreme Court, you can do whatever the hell you want. It is. So you win some, you lose some. But those are two good things that did happen today. Who would cut the funding federal grants for libraries anyway? Doge, I guess, who is no longer a thing. It wasn't even ever a fucking thing to begin with. It was just a data mining operation under the cover of government budget saving money, fraud, waste, fraud, and abuse. And then they came in and committed waste, fraud, and abuse, and then left with all our data with what's the name, Palantir and them. Anyways, on to another thing. What is the word on the street today?
The word on the street tonight comes from a family in the Chicago area, the Lumen family. Father is a professor of geology at Wheaton University or College, which is an evangelical school. They are a conservative Christian family, homeschool family, and yet their two teenage sons and the mother in particular are doing everything they can to thwart ICE and to provide comfort and care for those who have been targeted by ICE. And the two teenagers, they go around with their phones and they use different apps and things to document where ICE is and what they're doing. And the license plates that they use, apparently they swap out license plates a lot. And here's what these two young men have to say. They are Ben and Sam Lumen. And Sam said, all groups need to be caring for people because everyone should have basic morals that tell you deep inside that this is not right. Mm-hmm. And his brother Ben interjected, but I also feel like Christians should be the first people to fight for this. What have we been taught our entire life? Feeding the hungry, clothing the naked. This is basic stuff. Christians have always been people who are supposed to be here for the marginalized, the people that are being hurt by systems, the people that don't have a voice. And that right there, friends, is what it's about. Those kids sound like they're ready to go start to read James Cone and Justo Gonzalez, Gutierrez, the Latin American liberation theologians, because they got it right. And they're out there putting themselves on the line. They've been thrown up against cars by ICE officers and whatnot. And they're seeing all these brutal arrests.
Made them feel invincible.
Yeah.
Like they don't have to follow the law. Not even they disrespect and assault actual law enforcement.
Yeah. So the kids, these two conservative kids from a conservative Christian family, are reminding people that this is basic Christianity right here.
Christianity 101.
I mean, you can't tell me that I grew up as a kid reading the words in red and then come after me for being how I am today because I was radicalized by the words in red and by the prophets in the Bible. So sorry, y'all.
Yeah,
I'm a raging leftist because I read the words in red, and then I went and studied history, which just took me from being a right-wing, non-critical thinking person to a woke person because I have a heart and a brain. So thank you, Ben and Sam Lumen, for that word on the street. This is basic stuff. Christians should stand up for the marginalized and should stand up against systems of oppression and powerful empires. Period. End of discussion. That's the brief.
I love it. I love you. I love that. Well, Ben and Sam, y'all get the final word.
Yeah, and that was reporting it from Religion News Service, RNS, that I use quite a bit to get the information on this stuff. So y'all check that out.
Awesome. Well, listen, that's our show. Thank you. I want to thank you for letting us be ourselves again. Hanging out with us on the God Squad. Tune in on Wednesdays, if you can, to SiriusXM's Progress Radio Channel 127 with John Fuqua saying, "Tell Me Everything." We are there at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you know where to find us every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the God Squad. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I was interviewed by a different podcast specifically about permaculture and theology recently. That interview came out this week. It's called the Christianity Without Compromise podcast with Jake Doberens. So if you're anything like interested in permaculture or just curious about what that means, go check that out. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. Christianity Without Compromise with Jake Doberens. And he and I talk about permaculture and the golden rule. So check that out.
All right. Until next time, love, peace, and chicken grease, and we'll see y'all next week in Jesus' name.
That's right. Good Lord willing, the creek don't rise.